We're going to take it over to the Royal Room afterwards and show it over there. So if you don't get to see it here, it'll be shown over there, and it's also going to be posted online. Jimmy Martin usually does an excellent job on these, so I hope we get to see them.
Usually is a key word.
Right up front, I would like to thank Kathy Thomas for making the brochures, the
Program.
Okay, I have my own little story about Joe. To me, kind of tells what Joe was like in shuffleboard as to coming to new players. I've known Joe about 6 years. When I decided, along with Debbie Murhoff and Sandy Flood, we decided we were going to put on a 4th of July tournament a little different for the Dixie Belle than usual. It was going to be 3 bars, 6 events, and 9 boards. We included the Edgewood and Oscars and the Dixie Belle in this. Joe told me I couldn't do it. And we had a little tip about that. He said, you'll have drunks driving all over. I think the thing I was proudest about in that tournament was nobody got a 502. Which with that crowd is, you know, really going somewhere. It lasted 6 days. 3 days it was at night while we did the ABC. And then we played all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The last event to start was a Division II doubles. John Muniz didn't have a partner. He kept begging me to be his partner. I had 6 hours sleep in 6 days. I wasn't doing too good by then. But I finally agreed to play Division II doubles with John McGinnis. Around about our 3rd match, I was playing against Bud Brownhill, and John was playing Fern. Bud Brownhill looked at me and he said, who are you arguing with? I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that shot. And Bud said, who are you arguing with? I said, Joe Muniz. And he said, Joe's not here. And I said, no, he's here and he won't get out of my head. And I gotta say, there's a lot of times where advice that Joe has given me over the years, not that he ever told me how to make a shot, he told me what I did wrong. I remembered what I did wrong. Don't do it again. He's been in my head, in my game, for a lot of years now. When I started doing shuffleboard here at the lodge and putting on tournaments, Joe started making weight cases and donating them because all of my tournaments benefit the children's charities here at the lodge. Joe was always really big on jumping in and helping out with any benefit that you put on anywhere. He just had a big heart that way. Billy Maxwell cannot be here today. I saw him about 3 weeks ago. He and Eddie were down here for a weekend, and he really wanted to be here today. He had mixed feelings about Joe going into the Hall of Fame because over the years, Joe did say he didn't want to go in the Hall of Fame, but it wasn't that he didn't believe in the Hall of Fame. He just believed there were a lot of older players that deserved to go in here a lot more than he did. And that was his main argument with the Hall of Fame. I'm going to say argument because anytime I talk to Joe, it turned into an argument. It was an argument. So Billy decided, when the Hall of Fame decided to induct him, that it was a good thing and Joe deserved it. And he hopes that they continue putting in some of those older members, older players that Joe felt should go in before him. Joe was born in Colorado in 1939. He claimed to be so poor that he and his brother had to share a pair of shoes. Daughter Lisa didn't quite believe that, but understands that Joe always wanted his children to be grateful with what they had. He grew up surrounded by family, aunts, uncles, cousins, and more. Family was always #1 with him. Lisa remembers taking many trips to visit relatives in Colorado, Wyoming, and Marysville. Joe wanted to be a police officer, but lacked the height requirements needed in previous eras. Instead, he changed paths and became a cabinet maker and carpenter, working his way up to become an owner at Taylor Brothers Stair Company. Lisa says that he made the most beautiful oak staircases and had many stories to tell of celebrities he met while installing them in their homes. And believe me, Joe could tell stories. Joe was married to Marvel, the love of his life, for 46 years. They had 2 daughters, Lisa and Jody. Lisa says of her dad, he taught me to care and love people. He taught me to step in and help others. He taught me to hold my head up and never do anything that I couldn't be proud of. He taught me respect. He taught me to laugh and be silly. He taught me to always do the right thing. He taught me to hold fast to family. Joe loved horse racing and worked part-time at Los Alamitos, Santa Anita, and Hollywood Park. He also enjoyed golfing, fishing in Alaska and Loretto, and gambling. He made many trips to Las Vegas. Joe also loved shuffleboard. He started playing in the 1960s, but took some time out for families when his daughters were young. He became a pro player, and one of his greatest accomplishments was the Pacific Coast Shuffleboard Association, which he started along with Carl Spickelmeyer and Paul Weber. He had a vision to elevate the sport to the level of big poker and billiards tournaments in Vegas, and they created the largest tournament in the US and Canada. It became a family affair with everyone chipping in to help make it a success. Besides the extravaganzas, Joe promoted countless smaller tournaments and also fundraisers to fellow shuffleboard players, including Billy Child's family and for Alan Von Stewart. In the February 1991 board talk, George Wilbur, in a column discussing the previous year and the future of shuffleboard, said, Joe Muniz, Paul Weber, Carl Spickelmeyer, and Lisa Taylor. They've done more with the help of others involved in the PCSA than hold their annual tournaments in Vegas. They reached out and helped others in need with several shuffleboard benefits. Ask those on the receiving end who makes the world of shuffleboard so special. Joe didn't just promote the game. As a pro player, he played it very well. During the 1980s, he was listed in the board talk as one of the top 10 players in the Pacific Division. Joe's forte was open doubles events where he cashed in with numerous partners such as Carl Spickelmeyer, John McGinnis, John McDermott, Darrell Nelson, and daughter Lisa at the Dixie Sweethearts Tournament in 1995. However, he was most formidable when teamed with Billy Maxwell. Together, they won or placed tournaments all over the West Coast. Billy claims that Joe usually was the one to make the clutch leg or a shot out to close a game. Joe suffered a stroke in 2013. As Lisa recalled in her father's eulogy, when Dad had his stroke, we never left his side. He had many visitors, friends, and family, and he was surrounded, as he was his whole life, with love and friendship. At this time, I'm going to open the mic up to several people, or anyone who wishes to give a statement about Joe. If you do, would you raise your hand, please? Vern? Come on up. If you could come up on this side, you won't trip over the wall.
I'm sorry we had a video here that Jim made up for Joe, and we can't get it to operate on what we've got here. I wish you guys could see it. We finally figured out Joe. He had a strange outlook on life sometimes, and after watching this video with all the pictures of him that we've got, Every picture you see of him, he's looking at the world like this. You can line up everybody in the photograph, and the only one like this is Joe. He looked at the world like that. But we'll take this video over to the bar, and we'll try to play it over there. Jim did a good job. I've known Joe around 30 years or so. We've had a lot of good times together. We've been fishing all the way from Alaska to Mexico and all in between. We played golf, gambled, slept together, traveled together. And you haven't lived till you slept with Joe. But he was a very good friend. And he said at times he didn't want to go into the hall. But then he started negotiating. He says, well, how much will you give me if I go in? Or I'll go in if you take me with Billy, and he goes in. Well, put me in an organ and I'll go in. But he was trying to negotiate all the time. But it's a well-deserved. He had that tournament in Vegas at the Latin and the Showboat, and they were extravaganzas. And I believe John McDermott copied him right down to the law when he started in Reno. And it's just a little bigger than it was in Vegas. Same people, close to the same format. Everybody enjoyed that tournament. And we was really disappointed when he stepped down. But I think he really did deserve to go in the Hall of Fame, whether he thought so or not. Thank you.